All right, welcome everyone. Today we'll be talking about PDM in the cloud. So I just want to give a quick introduction to Elite Aerospace Group. That's my company. And in that group, we are the Digital Enterprise Group. We're the ones that support the PTC software and provide services to go along with it. So just to tell you about us quickly. So our company is a manufacturer under the Aviation Products Division. We operate several factories in California, manufacturing mostly into aerospace and defense, and we are using the PTC products ourselves, which is, I think, what makes us very interesting. So on that regard, the services that we do to go along with it, we are doing solution architecture. We can help you set up and design your PLM system, for example. We consult along it. We can help with any upgrades, customizations, and configurations. And then, of course, we support all of the other software, such as for CAD, there's Creo, and then there's MathCAD, and then getting into augmented reality, you have Vuforia, and for IoT, we have ThingWorx. Today, we'll be talking about Windchill, and specifically, we'll be talking about how Windchill can be set up in the cloud rather than in a traditional on-premise setup. So with that, I will pass the presentation to my colleague, Brad.
All right. So let me go ahead, and I think I could just start sharing here, Stu.
Yeah, just made you the presenter, and you should be able to share whenever you're ready.
Okay. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
We're all set. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So I wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Brad Pastuca. I'm with the Virtual Center of Excellence within PTC, and I'll be here delivering the Windchill PDM in the Cloud presentation, and then shortly followed by a demonstration of the tool Windchill Pdm. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We'll get into the slide deck, and we'll move along right along here. So first, we'd like to kind of understand what are some of the industry challenges today around the the industry in terms of product data management. So looking at a shared folder drive or FTP site, there's often a lack of revision control. The last save wins. I think that's it holds true for a lot of different types of ways you're managing your data, especially without a full type of PDM system in place. And so often you have to get creative with naming schemes, and it's hard to revert back to previous revisions or versions, and you can't really see much of an audit trail, so it becomes pretty difficult to get back and forth with your designs. Also, you have the tracking of the Cad interdependencies. So with Cad, there's a lot of intelligence that kind of needs to go along with it in terms of, hey, am I working on this part? Is it a part of this assembly? Is there a drawing associated to that assembly? Of course, there are ways in which the CAD tools themselves will help you out, but there's oftentimes files that you need that aren't necessarily in the right locations, etc. And oftentimes the designs can take a negative effect because of that. And usually there's a basic security. It's basically all or nothing type of access, and that is not really a good situation to have. You want to protect your IP, especially depending on which users are seeing it. You don't want to overwhelm specific types of users, etc. And then also you have a difficult time sharing data, and so often the non-CAD users, so users that may be downstream or users that need to rely or end up relying on that data to know what the status is or to be able to make decisions based off of that, they aren't able to get to that very, very quickly, or the accessibility of it isn't very great. And then beyond that, duplicating parts. If you're looking for information, you can't seem to find it. There is a pretty high chance that you're probably going to overwrite or you're going to create duplicates, and that just is redundant work. It is not very productive, and so you're also clogging up the database as well in terms of there's more information there than what you actually need to see, and so you can always, it ends up becoming a bit of a hassle to figure out what you're actually looking for. So what is the solution to those aforementioned problems or those challenges? And that is our Windchill PDM in the cloud. So it is a SaaS type offering. It's a software as a service, and it comes pretty much pre-configured with the idea that it's just base Windchill PDM. And so what are some of those capabilities that you get here? Well, you can securely manage CAD files, mechanical bill of materials, as well as associated documentation. And this allows you, whether it's a document, whether it's the CAD files, you have strict version control. You have the audit trail within the system that you can easily go back to specific revisions or versions. And you can also really and quickly understand the relationships between the items, whether it's the CAD with an associated drawing, is there a document in the system that has some sort of association to that. It just really helps get everything into one place and be able to, not have to look in multiple areas or multiple different types of systems. Allows you to search for existing products and parts. This goes back to the challenge of overwriting or duplicating information. So when you can search for this information very, very efficiently, effectively, then you don't have to worry about overwriting or duplicating it, because you found it, you have exactly what you need, and you can move forward with your day-to-day designs. We can also enforce a simple release or change process. Now, this is based off of a lot of the foundational Windchill PDM link type functionality with the full PLM tool, but it kind of strips some of it down to make it very simple to use, and it makes it very effective so that you can utilize that based off of specific types of workflows you might need or routings that you might need. So really the idea is to enhance the collaboration with your partners, vendors, and customers, have everything together, easy to find the information, get it out to your vendors, and be able to have value-added activity on a day-to-day basis. All right, so that was the solution. Now let's take a look at some a little more in depth on the specific capabilities of Windchill PDM in the cloud. So talking about the CAD files, being able to securely manage those and being able to manage those from multiple CAD applications. So just a few on the right-hand side, you have AutoCAD, you have Autodesk Inventor, SolidWorks, NX, CATIA, you name it. So you can manage that data from multiple different CAD sources, and it's all going to be in one single system. It can all reside together in harmony. It allows you to quickly find that latest version, so you're not having to comb through some of those proliferated versions or those overwritten versions. You don't have to look through all those different naming conventions, etc. All that is going to be stored within the system, and whenever you go to the specific components, specific parts, it automatically takes you to the latest as a default configuration. Controlling your access for your intellectual property. So you don't have to worry about the other users getting access to information they aren't supposed to have, or they're not going to change different things. So again, it's a role-based type of system, and you can control that access based off of how you have that set up. And then managing the CAD files behind the scenes. So you have the ability to access the Windchill data management actions right from within a specific tool. So on the right-hand side here, you're looking at SolidWorks. We have the ability to open from Windchill, perform all of our day-to-day data management type of actions right within the tool. It allows for familiarity and allows those users to get spun up on managing their data within Windchill very quickly and effectively. All right, moving forward. So we have the ability to manage bill of materials and the associated documents. So when I say bill of materials, I mean more of a mechanical BOM. So here in the graphic, you'll see that we have some CAD components. Here we have a top-level assembly with some sub-assemblies underneath it. So it understands all of the interdependencies between the different levels, and that's just how Windchill is set up and configured. You also have the ability to access the documentation via Windows Explorer. So through the use of the desktop integration, which comes with Windchill PDM in the cloud, it allows you to drag and drop files onto your Windows Explorer, but it's actually really hooked up to Windchill. And so it's a lot of that running in the background. So those light touch users or those casual users, that don't need to be in the Windchill interface at all times can utilize what they're used to, Windows Explorer, drag and drop those files in there, and just like that, you have information uploaded into Windchill that is now accessible by the entire organization. You can also export the mechanical BOM to Microsoft Excel, XML, CSV files, etc. So there's many different formats that you can export that to, whether or not you want to work on that in a specific type of tool or import it into another tool, whatever that may be. Windchill PDM in the cloud can suit those needs. So on to searching, what that looks like within Windchill PDM. So the idea here is that the search tools are always immediately accessible. You have some quick filters that you can perform, or you can have some more function specific. You can have a simple search, or you can make it more advanced to search on specific types of potentially attributes or some kind of low-hanging fruit, I like to call it, so that you can find the information that's relevant to what you need in a much more efficient manner. And then being able to visually understand relationships between objects. So if you're looking at a subassembly, you have that visual aspect, 3D representations that reside all throughout Windchill. And so you can understand and interrogate those models, see what those relationships are, and be able to be more well-informed. And this goes hand in hand, being able to identify those specific components as they relate to the structure. So with the simple release or change process, you have the ability to coordinate the users that you need to participate in that type of process, whether it's a design review or a promotion process. And so, that is the ability to have all that in your PDM system itself, and then you can have those being assigned to those users. It will be distributed, and it will go to those specific users that you had designated and allow them to participate in that process, whether it's via email. They can have a quick hot link into Windchill, or it could be right on the home screen utilizing the task table. And really what this allows you to do is standardize. And standardization is a big thing. It becomes much more repeatable, less error prone. You're not sitting and waiting on maybe a paper to be signed off of based off of where it's at in the process. So there's a lot going for these types of workflows and out-of-the-box enforcements of all these within PDM in the cloud. So just a few more slides here, then we'll hop into the demonstration. Okay, so here we have the lightweight graphical images. So upon check-in of the data, you have the ability to go in and create these graphical images, or really more so 3D graphics that you can interact with, you can interrogate, you can annotate, etc. And so it's really just a lightweight representation of the actual CAD file. And this is CAD agnostic, so it's not dependent on it being PTC Creo data, but it could also be SolidWorks data, it could be NX data, it could be Inventor data, whatever it may be. These visualizations can be utilized through the entire organization based off of what they're trying to see. Excuse me. You also have the ability to, as I mentioned, the ability to mark up, so you can create notes and annotation sets, but you also have the ability to measure and get a better understanding of what that product or what that design or assembly might look like, and be able to maybe use that to make a well-informed decision. And as I mentioned, so you have these 3D viewables, but you can also have other required formats such as IGES or STLs or PDFs being created upon check-in. So based off of how you have that set up, you can take full advantage of that. All right, so that's the last of the capabilities that I'm going to be going through here for now. And then we will take a look at the value. So the value of this tool, PDM in the cloud, allows you to securely manage all of your Creo files. Really, that should be extended to CAD files and related product information. It is a hosted PDM system from PTC, and it's based on our production-proven PLM software known as Windchill PDM Link. So a lot of that is in the foundation of Windchill PDM in the cloud. and it's utilizing basically what we've had in production for quite a while now. And it really provides a foundation for future growth. Maybe you start off baby steps in terms of PDM in the cloud, and then you want to maybe move towards a full-blown PLM system. It gives you that option or that luxury to move into that type of frontier if you see fit from your company's needs. So that is what I had here for the slide deck or the presentation portion of the Windchill PDM in the cloud. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the demonstration of the software. All right, so what I want to start off here is what we're looking at is the home screen of Windchill. So this is what you'd be greeted with when you come into your PDM in the cloud environment. And I want to point out here that we are currently logged in under Cindy, who is a contributor. So we're going to go through this demonstration in terms of 3 different users. So we have Cindy, the contributor. We also have the design engineer, and we also have a manager who we will go through, and I will make sure to elaborate on when each of those users is present in this type of system. So let's go ahead. Coming in as Cindy, we're going to open up the Navigator on the left-hand side of Windchill, and we're going to notice that we have a product. So our recent product is going to be our Synergy data set, basically. And this is an automobile, and we have this set up so that we can take a look at it and see what's really going on in the team space. So the team space, this can be based off of what type of product you're looking at. So in this case, we have our automobile. We have all of our different roles and members made up based off of who's going to be participating in this project itself. And this can change based off of which product you have, or you can utilize these teams for multiple different products as well. Okay, so we'll focus on Cindy, the contributor first, so she's more of a guest approach. And then we have our product manager, who is going to be Mark. And then we have Chris, the CAD author, who is going to be our designer type of role here. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the folder system. So the folder system is set up a lot like Windows Explorer. So you have your top level folders, and then you can have your sub documentation under those types of folders. So here we have three different folders under the Synergy, and we can see that we have our CAD data here. But what it allows you to do is allows you to have the access control rights on those specific folders. So sometimes when you're looking at a shared drive or a shared folder, it doesn't have this type of restriction or this type of access control. With Windchill, you have this ability to quickly pick and choose who has full control, who has read control, who has download control, etc. And it makes it very granular and allows you to make sure that your data is safe and it's only being seen by the people that need to see it. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at our quick filter. So we see that in the upper right-hand corner, we have our simple search or global search within Windchill. This is accessible throughout no matter what screen you are on within Windchill. So let's go ahead and take a look at the types we have. So we'll just search on CAD document for today's demonstration. So I'm going to put in these wildcards. These wildcards allow you to go in and basically have any characters before the 2 and any characters after the 7 to just pull up more search results to show the power of the Windchill search. All right, so as we search, the Navigator will then fly out once again. And this is going to let you know exactly how many objects you have within the search results table. So currently we have 58 objects, and we can further filter right through the search within the table. And so we got from the over 50 objects into one object here. And as we move forward, we have the thumbnail navigator. Now this thumbnail navigator is very nice because you don't have to dive into each of the components that you have searched up in your search results. You can easily just hover over them, get a visualization as to what it looks like. This is all 3D. And you can zoom in, zoom out, visually interrogate it to make sure that's what you're looking for. We don't want you to have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth into the depths of Windchill to find what you're looking for. Here you can navigate these thumbnails and be able to really find what you're looking for. In this case, maybe we know what the smallest or the piece part is of this subassembly. What we want to get to is maybe the subassembly itself or top level assembly. It all depends on where you want to go. And it's easy as selecting on the where used components, and then under it you have the uses component. So what is being consumed basically by that subassembly. And so if we find what we're looking for, we have our information that we need to work with. We have our CAD data. So let's go ahead and dive into that. As we do so, we have our product structure here. We have our visualization loaded in. So now it's a matter of selecting it so that we can easily toggle back and forth between the part structure or the CAD structure and the actual visualization there. So as I'm highlighting in the CAD structure, it's highlighting over in the visualization as well. So it really allows you to understand how everything interacts together and has this visualization no matter which CAD tool you're using. All right, and here you have the ability to export this list. So I'll go ahead and export this list to a spreadsheet. And here you see the structure report. You have the versioning, the number, as well as the file name. That all comes out here within Excel if you want to work in this type of regard or in this type of application outside of Windchill. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look and take a step deeper into the components here. So this is, again, one of those piece parts. It's a loop cap. And we see that we are on the 8.1 version, and we have our visualization here. So let's go ahead and select on that, and this will open up directly within Creo View Lite. Now, Creo View Lite comes with Windchill Pdm in the cloud. So anybody who has the ability to access Windchill will have the ability to download Creo View Lite onto their associated computer and be able to access these visualizations very quickly and be able to be a part of the process, really being able to add in notes, add in sections, etc., being able to really understand what's going on there with those parts they're looking at. So here we have a nice ability to show the 2D view of this specific sectioning. So as we move this back and forth, the 2D view will change, and you can easily understand what that is looking like or from a 2D perspective as well as a 3D perspective. And then if we come over here to our Markup tab, so within the Markup tab, we can have the ability to have quick summaries on the parts themselves, such as the name, the center of gravity, the envelope that it consumes, etc. This is all good information to have if that's something you need. But it also affords you the ability to go in and make some measurements and markups. So let's go ahead and we're going to measure this top hole basically. And we want to see exactly what that looks like. So here we have this radius. It's a little bit different than what we had anticipated. So what we can do is we can format this in a way that makes it easy to understand for whoever is going to be looking at this. And again, this will reside within Windchill for those users to basically utilize. If you have access to this specific part, you can gain access to these annotation sets very quickly. Okay, and now we have our annotation properties, so let's go ahead and type in some text to signify what we want to do with this. Do we want to change it? Do we want to just call it out? How do we want to go about doing this? And so we're going to change that radius from 3.175 millimeters to 2 millimeters. Okay, so now we have this information. We want to save this off into Windchill. So we'll get to save this annotation set. And you'll see that the author comes in automatically, Cindy the contributor, and then the email is automatically linked there as well. Okay, so now we see the design change has saved. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and switch gears here. And so we're going to take a look at the Windchill documents within the Windows Explorer. So these Windchill documents is basically extending the Windchill functionality, the Windchill database basically, onto your Windows Explorer environment. So if you're somebody that works primarily with just documentation and you don't need to go into the Windchill user interface, this is a great segue or a great way to upload this information without having to go into the full-blown user interface. So what I'm doing here is I just basically went into the Windchill documentation, and now what we're being prompted with is the ability to access those basically product buckets or containers or context in this case where it's going to house our product information. So we already took a look at the product of the Synergy car, so we're going to stick with that for today's demonstration. So within our Synergy product, we have our supporting documentation. So we'll just go ahead into that folder. And here we have our documents. So here you can see whether it's a photo, whether it's a PDF, whether it's a Word document. It's easy to understand what everything is because you're used to that within Windows Explorer. It works basically the same exact way. And then what you're also seeing is the number of the document, who it's checked out by, the version of it, the state that it's in. All of the documentation is also being revision and version controlled, just like the CAD data within Windchill. So what we could do is we have this design change list right on our desktop, and here you can just go ahead and drag and drop simple functionality that you're probably used to on a day-to-day basis, and it allows you to pick up on this very quickly and be able to understand how to use this tool from a much higher level. So there, our design change list has now come into our table, and you see that it populates as a Word document, which is exactly what it was, and you have all this information residing within Windchill. So if you were to look within the Windchill user interface, you would see that document has been newly uploaded into the system. Okay. All right, so now that we've added in the document, we want to take a look at another document that's already residing within Windchill. So as we open this up, basically Windchill has a lot of checks and balances in place, and what's happening here is it's saying that in order for us to modify this documentation, we would need to check it out first to prevent overwriting of data. So it's a lot like a library type system where if one user checks it out, much like a library book, they have it for a sustained amount of time. And once they're done with it, they'll go and check that book back in, and now it becomes accessible by anybody that needs to see that book. So it's a lot like that with the Windchill system. So when you have this document opened up and ready to make modifications to it, when it's in the checked out state, nobody else can check it out. All right, so let's go ahead and make some modification here to this documentation. All right, so we're going to change the date here. And then we'll check it in. So we changed the date. We made just a pretty small change, but this is going to be incremental, and you could easily see this within the Windchill system, within the history of this documentation itself. Okay, and then you can see the version is now 8.2, went from 8.1 to 8.2. And now let's go ahead and dive into a different user. In this case, it's going to be the CAD author, so Chris. We have Creo Parametric opened up here, and we have our transmission, basically, that we were taking a look at earlier opened up. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how all of this is interacting, so we can utilize some of Creo's technology and capability to view how this would interact with this entire system. And maybe we still want to make some modifications based off of that. So that's part of the capabilities that you get within these types of integrations. So here we have our loop cab, and we want to go ahead and open that up in a separate window or separate session of Creo Parametric. And what we could do is before we ever make any modifications as Chris the CAD author, you see that that's what we're signed in here under. We want to take a look at what some of those additional notes mentioned before we get started here. We want to take a look and see exactly what changes need to be made before we move forward with any type of change here. So here you can see the annotation set is now accessible by Chris the CAD author instead of Cindy the contributor, and we can see exactly what was laid out for us. Right, so now that we have that information, we can use that and leverage that as we go forward with our changes. So we're going to check this out, and we're going to utilize our flexible modeling capabilities within Creo Parametric. So we're going to go in here and we're going to change the width of this hole. Currently it's 3.175, so the lightweight representation in Creo View Light is, as you can tell, accurate to the CAD data, the actual CAD data. And we're going to change this radius from 3.175 to 2. As simple as that. And then also we want to go in and throw in a round here just to make sure that this is not going to be an issue moving forward. Okay, so now we have the round in place. We have created our change there. And we're going to go ahead and perform our check-in. So just like that, we made our modification. Our check-in has now succeeded. You can see that in the bottom left-hand side of the event management console. And so we know that that has gone through, and so now we can review that back within the system. All right, and so next up, within the Windchill Pdm side of things, you have the ability to manage not only Creo data, but also SolidWorks data. So coming in as Chris the CAD author, maybe you don't just use Creo, maybe you use multiple tools. In this instance, we have SolidWorks and Creo. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like, how this interacts with Windchill itself. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and open up a SolidWorks piece of data or a SolidWorks assembly and open that up directly from the client computer. So there's no current ties with Windchill at this point. All right, so we open that up, and here we see that we have the PTC Windchill tab right within SolidWorks, and this is utilizing our Workgroup Manager. And so the Save to Workspace allows us to go ahead and easily save that to our workspace before we ever go in and check it into the system. So we'll go ahead and perform the auto check-in, and on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that the upload has started and the check-in has succeeded. So we've gone from this assembly basically being on the computer, the engineer's computer, the CAD author, and then we checked it into Windchill very quickly, utilizing the Workgroup Manager for SolidWorks. And then we're going to take a look at how we can utilize this and leverage this with a multi-CAD environment. So now if we go back into Creo Parametric, we can take a look at a different assembly where we want to assemble a specific component directly from Windchill. So within that specific workspace that we saved it to, we have that brake system that we just had within SolidWorks. And just like that, we're able to come in and say, hey, we want the SolidWorks component added to our CAD or our Creo assembly. So here we could go ahead and line up these constraints to make sure everything fits the way that we had anticipated. And as we do so, we'll go ahead and set that up. So here we have our constraints set up, and we have our brake disc and assembly centered up perfectly. There is what we want. So we're utilizing the SolidWorks assembly and a Creo assembly as well, all being managed directly within Windchill. If we scroll down here, we see that we have our SolidWorks assembly on the bottom being added into the system here. And what we could do, what's nice about this is utilizing the flexible modeling tool, we could go in and we want to change this pattern. Now, we already checked it in, but what we need to do is we need to check this back out. So this is a modification that we're going to be making to the actual SolidWorks assembly here. All right, so again, with the checks and balances within Windchill, we're going to first check out, make it inaccessible by other users for the time being. We're going to edit the pattern that we have here currently, utilizing the flexible modeling. So it allows you to do some, I guess, a little bit of changes that you could do to existing third-party CAD data that isn't necessarily Creo. All right, so now that we have that change within the pattern, we're going to go ahead and save that back off into Windchill. Okay, so now we're going to come in as Cindy, again, Cindy the contributor, and we'll notice that we have a go to latest here within our loop cap because we made a modification, or Chris the CAD author made a modification to the loop cap. And if I come in here, you can see that we have within our history a change. So modified by Chris the CAD author, we went from 8.1 to 8.2, and you can see that right within the history tab there. If we go to our actions, let's go ahead. As Cindy, we want to create a new promotion request. So this is a simple change or simple workflow promotion request where we can easily utilize the built-in workflows within Pdm in the cloud. And then if we hit next, we could go ahead and select the promotion objects. We want to go from the in-work state to the release state. And then we want to select the participants that are to be a part of this specific process. So we selected on Mark. He's going to be the next person in line for this process, and we'll go ahead and see what he sees in terms of this workflow. All right, so here we have Mark, and we're going to see that in our task table, we have our approved promotion request task. And so this approved promotion request will show up in our task table, but it can also show up in our emails if we have that set up based off of your corporate directory. So here we can open the task assistant. This allows us to basically have an anchor point to quickly come back and forth to make sure that you're staying on task and able to complete that in a timely fashion. So here we have our promotion request. We have our promotion objects there as our part that we've just promoted, and we want to go ahead and continue on with that task completion. So the idea here is that the approver can go in and say, hey, I've taken a look at it, it looks good, and then you can approve, reject, or rework based off of those routing options. So we'll say this is approved for today's demonstration. And so as we approve that, if we go back to the loop cap or the promotion object itself, we could see that we have the released version of it now as the state. So it went from in work to released, just like that. So really that wraps up today's demonstration of Windchill Pdm in the cloud. The idea is to have the hosted solution within PTC hosted on the cloud, and then have these the ability to have all of your PDM data management actions right within Windchill, be able to work with documentation, be able to work with your CAD tools, whether it's Creo or SolidWorks or others, and be able to have that all housed within a single area with a very safe and secure environment without having the need to duplicate a lot of your data. So with that said, Stu, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brad.
No problem.
Well, at this point, if there are any questions. All right, I will stop the recording.